What's up, Periscope Tycoon?
With Credit Suite. Really glad everybody could join us today. So it's been about 2 weeks since I've actually been on here on Periscope, and my apology for that. I actually planned on being on here last week, and I got my times a little messed up, and I actually ended up being on an airplane over Texas at the time I was planning on doing my Periscope. So anyways, I'm now here doing another scope. I'm really glad to join everybody. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be diving in. We're going to be talking about business credit. We're going to be talking about the most important step of building business credit, which is building your business foundation. So we're actually going to be talking about exactly what you need to do to become lendable, how you get a loan, how you get credit. And ironically, when it comes to business credit and when it comes to getting a loan, it's exactly the same base. So this is what you need to know about getting business credit or getting a loan, either or, depending on what it is you're looking to do. You're probably looking to do both. What you need to know is this: lenders and credit issuers have a set of standards that you have to meet to get approved. It's as simple as that. If you meet these requirements, then you're going to be able to get approved, often automatically from their computers. If you don't meet these requirements, you just simply will not get approved. So the goal of you and I is to make you lendable, okay? To create you a situation where you're fundable. And in order to do that, we've got to start with your foundation. We've got to start at what they're looking at actually on your application, what the computers are looking at from lenders and credit issuers, and what the actual manual underwriters, if it gets escalated to that point, are looking at as well. I'm going to open up the curtains here to let a little bit of light here in my office. Okay, so our goal is to get you approved automatically, to get you approved just because your application meets the requirements of the lender, of the credit issuer in their computer, so you can get approved without it ever going to a manual underwriter. And if it ever does have to go to a manual underwriter, then our second goal is to get you approved when that manual underwriter looks at the file. Because again, it's pretty simple. They have a set of standards. You either meet those standards, you get approved, or you don't meet those standards and you don't get approved. Okay, so anybody here looking to actually get a loan, to get credit, this is going to be a benefit to you today. So we're going to go to the whiteboard and we're going to dive in and we're going to talk a little bit about business credibility, and we're going to start by actually looking at your business address, talking a little bit more about that. When it comes to your business address is actually very, very, very important when it comes to getting business credit. And I'll tell you exactly what you do and don't want to do. First of all, you do not want to use a home address at all. Okay, home addresses are going to get you denied. If you try to put a home address on your application for business credit or for business loan, you're typically going to be denied. So why is that? Well, it's that way because they're thinking that you're basically unestablished. Okay, that's what it comes down to, is when a business address on your application, it looks like you're unestablished. Now, I know a lot of people are on the scope saying, hey, look, I've got a home address and I'm legitimate and I'm credible. I get it. I've built businesses from home. I've sold a business that I built from a home-based setting. But the problem is from a lending standpoint, they look at these and they're skeptical of any home-based business. You typically cannot get automatically approved through a lot of systems just because you have a home-based address. Now, just as you said, use a virtual address. That's a great suggestion. Okay, a virtual address is a great way, Fab, and you're back. Thanks for coming back. Is a great way to actually get approved, because what you want to do is you want to use basically a virtual address, which is the equivalent of a business address. With a virtual address, you're actually getting an address from a place like Regis, which is more expensive, but they actually definitely have some of the better virtual addresses. And that way you're using a real physical business address on the application. So if you use a home address, what happens is we have the same technology in our business finance suite. Customers will come in, they'll put a home address, and there's all kinds of alerts that pop up. And we tell them you can't even proceed because you're using a home address. So lenders have the same technology. They know immediately if you're using a home address. So if you don't have a business address, a real physical business address, then you move to start using a virtual address instead. Now, another option is you can use, number one, a business address is preferred. Number two is a virtual address, as we just talked about. And number three is a UPS address. And it really should work like this. So you don't want to use a home address. You definitely want to use a business address preferably, or if you have to use another address, use a virtual address second, use a UPS. So First choice, let's use business address. Second choice, we look at using a virtual address. Third choice, we look at UPS. Now, even UPS can get you denied at some places. It's not preferred. It's kind of sketchy with some lenders. So you may not get preferred. So try to get a real physical business address. And secondly, if you can't, then try to make sure that you're using an actual virtual address. And third and final, use a UPS address, but do not, under any conditions, use a home address that will easily get you denied. So next, let's look at business phone. Let's talk a little bit about how your phone must meet the requirements to get approved with Lendable. So when it comes to business phone, then what you want to do is you need to make sure that you're using a business phone or a voice over IP, either or, okay? So you can use a Google number, you can use a Ring Central number. You cannot use a home phone. You cannot use a cell phone. It needs to be a business line that is actually hardwired into your business, or a Phonality line or Ring Central or something like that. Now you also need to make sure you have a fax number. Now nowadays you can go to a place like Ring Central, and Ring Central will give you a fax number as part of your business phone number. You also need to make sure that you have a toll-free number and that you also have that phone number listed with 411. Whew, a lot of requirements. Let's look at it again. You do not want to use a home phone number at all. No mobile phone. You will get denied if you do either one. The computers know this. They're automatically going to deny you in a lot of cases. So you want to use a real hardwired business phone, or nowadays you're really going to see voice over IPs or virtual phones. So places like Ring Central are pretty cheap, 10, 15 bucks. You also need to make sure you have a fax number. Most businesses have fax numbers. Now nowadays, Ring Central can give you something like your business phone and fax all in one, no big deal. And then you also want to make sure that you're using a toll-free number on 411, but you need to be listed. So it comes down to 411 being like super important. It's really important because this is where this is where lenders and credit issuers go to see if you're legit. They want to make sure if you're dealing with a real credible business that you are using that if you're dealing with a real credible business, what they're going to look at is they're going to look to make sure that your number is listed with 411. So if you're not listed with 411, it's actually not easy to do. I can tell you. I used to think it was easy. It's not. There's a company called List Yourself. So you can actually get there. Hey, Ty. So glad I caught you live. Cool. Well, here we are. Well, hopefully we're going to try to be here every Wednesday at 4 Eastern, just so you know. That's the goal. I'm going to try to stick to it, blocking off my schedule. But sometimes, like today, I actually have a speaking obligation in a few weeks, and they're doing a Meet the Speakers kind of webinar that I'm actually committed to. So I wasn't able to do it today, but I'm glad you made it. So when it comes to phone number, listed with 411 is super, super important. I'll see you at boot camp. And actually, if you're going to be on that Meet the Speakers webinar, that's what I'm about ready to jump off to in a matter of 20 minutes or so. So 411 listing is very, very, very important. You can go to a company called List Yourself. That's who we use. Now, we actually pay for the service for our clients. It's not free for us. It's not free for you. And from what I've seen, I think they charge about $25 or $30 a month to get your number listed with 411. Now, that's not required. Your phone number might naturally be listed with 411. So, for example, before we ever set up ours through List Yourself, we checked, and sure enough, our phone number was listed with 411. So we were already set. We didn't have to pay. But if you're not listed with 411, make sure you are. Make sure you have a phone number. Make sure you have toll-free. Make sure you have a fax number. And make sure your business number is not a cell phone or a home phone that you're actually using. How do you check? Just go to 411. Type in 411 in Google, 411.com. Type in your business name, and boom, ours popped up right away. If you do some searches and you can't find your business name, that's a problem. That means lenders and credit issuers aren't going to be able to find you either, and that means you're pretty new, or you don't even have enough information out there for them to know about it. So it's a pretty big deal. We went through and made sure that all of our information is uniform across the web, and I'm pretty sure 411 was one listing that Yext used also. IP is a website and email. Now, your website needs to be a professional domain. So, for example, our website is creditsuite.com, right? That's professional domain. And as a result, somebody asked me today or yesterday on a webinar, does it have to be the same? Does your professional address have to be the same as your company name? Like if our company was ABC credit, business credit, then does that mean that we could actually come in and not get a domain other than ABC business credit? You absolutely can. You don't have to have ABC business credit be your name if that's your company name. You just want to make sure it's a professional domain, okay, that you're actually using something like we use, which is creditsuite.com or, hopefully yourname.com. I recommend when you're going to get a business name that you make sure that domain is available, and hopefully it is, or not choose your business name until you make sure the domain is available, and then that way it's easy. Your name can be your domain, but even if it's not, you just need to make sure you have a professional email and domain. So most of the time nowadays, like you can go to GoDaddy, and GoDaddy will give you the email with the actual professional domain. You get one at the same, and it's like $12 to get both. It's cheap. Okay, but don't use a personal email address, okay? Don't use partydude@gmail. That will not work. Don't use anything at Gmail or Yahoo. Those will not work. Those will get you denied. You need to make sure that you're using a professional email and professional domain, okay? So this is a big deal. You want to make sure that you're getting a professional website. You also want to make sure that you're getting a professional email, and do not use an email like a Yahoo email, a Gmail email, partydude 2016 at Gmail, stuff like that. Obviously, you need to stay away from. Now, I kind of went backwards here because what we really should start with is your business name. So when you're choosing a business name, you need to make sure that it's available in your state. And you can do so and also make sure it's not on the industry restricted list. You can do this right at your Secretary of State. So in Florida, we call it SunBiz. We have sunbiz.org, and I can go to sunbiz.org. I do a quick search. The search will actually tell me if the name is available. What if you're a church? That actually is fine. Being a church is fine. Just keep in mind, a church, you're going to have a hard time getting actual loan unless you show tax returns to show a profit, but you can still build business credit for any nonprofit or church, which is super cool. So make sure your business name is available. Go to your Secretary of State website. In Florida, it's sunbiz.org. You can simply type in your state, Texas, Secretary of State into Google search. You'll pull up your Secretary of State information. Make sure the name is available there. If it is available, then just try to stay away from the actual restricted list. Try to stay away from industry restricted list if you are choosing a business name. Try to make sure your name is not on or reflective that you're on a restricted industry list. So that's too long to go into what restricted industries are. But I can tell you that people are dealing with X-rated stuff like porn and gambling and ammunition. Those are often restricted industries. But a lot of industries are in watch lists, which are more risky, which are things like financial services, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, insurance agents are all on the restricted industry. Taxi cab drivers are on the industries to watch. So it's way too long of a list to go here. I will tell you that if you go to our website, creditsuite.com, that's Credit Suite spelled S-U-I-T-E, creditsuite.com, at the top right, you'll see our actual social media links. If you click on YouTube, you'll see we just did a webinar yesterday on some of this information, and we actually gave the whole industry list of restricted industries that lenders look at. We also gave a really detailed list of more stringent requirements. So there's really two things. Either you're going to be restricted or they're going to be more stringent requirements. And on that webinar, we actually went over a bunch. I just listed some here. So try to choose a name that reflects that you're not one of those high-risk industries. Try to reflect a business name that reflects that you are not one of those more difficult underwriting requirement industries. And of course, check your Secretary of State records just to make sure that that name is actually available. Now, something else, I'm not going to go to the whiteboard here, but I'll probably do this when we're done, is entity. Which entity should you choose? Man, I get this question a lot. Is it okay to be a corporation? Should you be an LLC? Should you be a sole proprietorship? Should you be a partnership? So here's how it is. Anybody can build business credit, any industry, but you need to know what an industry is and how an industry works, okay? Because what happens is the entity you choose determines two things, your tax liability, and it also determines your personal liability, okay? Or where your taxes are kind of assessed. And somebody says LLC are the best, and yeah, that's absolutely right. LLC or corporation are the best two to choose, because with an LLC or corporation, you and your business are separate. They're two different things. So you're not liable for what goes on in your business. If you're a sole proprietorship or a partnership, you are liable for what goes on in your business. So you want to try to stick with either a corporation or an LLC. That gives you the best shot of eliminating your liability or limiting your liability. And who doesn't want to? And what I mean by that is, Let's say some crazy dude sues your company for some crazy stuff you didn't do. You still have to fight out that lawsuit. They can still come after your personal assets if you're a sole proprietor or if you're a partnership, okay? So you don't want to do those things if you don't have to. Choose an LLC or corporation. That way you can actually do your best to limit your liability. Now, another thing I have here is licensing, okay? Let me see, and hopefully this looks right. I don't think it is. I think it's backwards. Okay, so licensing is the next thing. So listen, if you're a plumber, you need to make sure you have the right license to be a plumber. If you are required to have an occupational license in your county, you need to have your occupational license. If you're required to have certain licenses based on your industry, based on your state, based on your city, based on your county, you need to make sure you have those licensing. That is a check that lenders absolutely look at to make sure that you're licensed. And another thing in making sure you're credible is listings. Make sure that you're easy to find and it's congruent. Make sure that the address, right? Make sure the phone number, your website, your email, your business name, all these things are easy to find and congruent. You do not want, absolutely, one of the biggest reasons people get denied is they come in and they have a business name that's a little different. They have ABC Corporation versus ABC Inc. Sounds like the same, but if credit issuers and lenders cannot easily find your name or find your business with all these details, you're going to get denied. So you need to make sure that your address, that your phone number, that your website, that your name, that all these things are congruent, not just online, but also that you have the same thing on all of your documents. So you need to make sure that all your bank statement, your utility statements, all those things have the correct information, the same congruent information everywhere, that you're easy to find and that the information is congruent. Can't tell you how important this is. Believe it or not, one of the number one reasons people get denied for business credit and financing is because what happens is they're actually coming in and the lender or credit issuer tries to find your business to verify all the things you're putting on the application, and they get confused. They're not 100% positive that the information they find is the exact same information that you put on the application. Maybe your name was a little off. Maybe your address is different. Maybe the phone numbers aren't the same. If there's any question that what they find on the application is not what they're able to find online, you get denied. So one of the team members in our company was one of the biggest bankers at Wells Fargo, and this was one of the biggest frustrations she had about the big banks, is people would often get denied for this reason. She wasn't even allowed to tell people that why they were actually getting denied, okay? Because this is how bankers are. They won't tell you this stuff. So what happens is their front-end bankers would have to deny people that had packets this deep of documentation that they supplied, all because of one reason. They did a quick search in the very beginning part of underwriting the application. They couldn't 100% determine if the company they found online was the same on the application. They denied them and never told the applicant why. That applicant could have thought it was their tax returns, their revenues, any number of reasons, but the real reason, because they couldn't even locate the business online. You got to make sure that your information is congruent. You have to make sure it's the same on all of your documents. And again, a service I use personally for this is called Yext, Y-E-X-T. Not saying it's the best. I like it. It's easy to use. There's other services that might be better, easier, or cheaper. But Yext, I type in my business information and it automatically puts all the information to all those places. Now, somebody told me the other day, look, if you cancel your Yext subscription, they're going to stop doing that and all that stuff might reverse back. I can't speak to that. And there might be other services where that doesn't happen. But what I can tell you and will tell you is that you absolutely need to make sure your information is congruent online. Yext is the easiest way to do it. I got Yext because we changed our business address. And I knew that we were going to be continuing to apply for business credit. And the problem was I couldn't have all of our information be wrong. So the easy way to do it was I went to Google Places, Google for Business. I went to Bing, has a business application. Yahoo has a great place where you can list your business information for free. And I make sure that all those were changed, the main places they may look. I then went to Yext and changed everything else. And I started checking every single source. And sure enough, Yext and my manual searchers had made sure that all of my information was congruent. So let's go back and wrap this up with exactly what you need to do to be lendable by looking back here at the white. You need to make sure you have a real physical business address for credibility. Okay, this needs to not be a home address. It needs to be a business, or number two, if you can't get a business, go virtual or go to UPS. Now, if you like this, give me some hearts. Show me that this makes sense. Show me that actually you completely are going to comply with this so you can go ahead and get loans and to actually get some credit. Good. That's what I want to see. Okay, so make sure your phone number is a business phone number. It can be a voice over IP like RingSense. You need a toll-free number, and you want to make sure that that is listed in 411. Very, 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 very important. You need to make sure you have a professional website and professional email. It doesn't have to be yourcompany.com, but it needs to be a professional domain. It needs to be a professional email. No partydude@gmail will not work. You need to have a business name. And to set up your business name, make sure it's available in your state, and make sure you stay away from some of those restricted industries that we talked about. You want to choose as an entity, an LLC or corporation, because it gives you the best opportunity of limiting your actual liability. You need to make sure you have the proper licensing, and you need to make sure that all of your documents have the same listing, same name, same address, same phone number, and so do all of your listings online. Bing, Google, Yahoo, these places have great free places you can list your company online, but there's a lot of other places like 411 and other that you need to make sure your licenses are congruent. How do you know? Google your name. Google your business name and see what comes up. And any place you see that it's off, try to get it changed with them or use a service like Yext. This is the number one step of building business credit. Last scope we did, we went through a summary of all of them. And the next scope we do, we're going to start breaking down step 2 and talk about how to get set up with the business credit reporting agencies and how to get your business credit reports. So before I sign off, I want to introduce you to 2 different links you probably want to check out. creditsuite.com/Periscope is where you can get a free consultation where we'll get your business credit report and score, go through it with you at absolutely no cost. We'll talk to you about what you need to do to build business credit. And creditsuite.com/consult, creditsuite.com Periscope is where you can get a free guide that maps out exactly how to build business credit. And creditsuite.com/consult is where you can get your free business credit report and score. I plan on being back next Wednesday at 4 o'clock Eastern, and I'm going to try again to do this every Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And next Wednesday, we're going to dive into business credit reports. We're going to talk about Equifax, Experian, Dun & Bradstreet, how you get set up, how you get your DUNS number without paying a dime to actually get your DUNS number, how you do checks to see if you have credit profile and score set up with all 3 reporting agencies. We're even going to dive in some and talk about business credit reports, where you can go to get your best business credit reports, how you look at business credit reports. We're going to start going over all that next week in our next scope. And again, I have it scheduled for 4 o'clock next Wednesday. So make sure you follow us on Periscope so that way you'll be notified as soon as we go live. Look, thank you everybody for joining us today. I really enjoyed having you. Remember, this scope will be up for 24 hours on our main Periscope page, so you can go back and look at anything you missed if you weren't here for the entire scope. I'm off to a webinar now to talk about a presentation I'll be at the end of the month here in Tampa. And if you actually want to see me live, I'll be in Atlanta, Georgia this weekend, actually doing a presentation there at a great event. You can email us info@creditsuite.com, info@creditsuite.com. We'll tell you exactly where I'm going to be in Atlanta, exactly where I'm going to be in Tampa, and I will see you next week live here on Periscope at 4 o'clock. Thanks everybody very much for following the scope today. Hope you got some good actionable information out of this. If you have any questions, let us know, info@creditsuite.com, and we look forward to seeing you on the next scope. Somebody has a question: how long does it take to build business credit from vendor accounts to unsecured? Well, you can start getting unsecured credit, which is at stores, within 60 days. It takes you about 120 days to get the fleet credit and cash credit. So you can get vendor credit right away. You can actually get store credit within about 60 days and cash credit within 120 days. And guess what? I'm going to show you how to do all this. On the whiteboard, I'm actually going to map out this entire process. We're just on step 1. Tomorrow we dive into step 2, and then the next week, we dive into step 2, and the week after that, we're going to be diving into step 3, where we're going to be talking about how you start a business credit profile and score using vendor credit. But before we get ahead of ourselves, next week we'll dive into business credit reports, how you get set up with D&B, Experian, and Equifax, how you actually get access to your reports, how you can actually see what's on your reports. We may even have time to go through an actual business credit report, which we did a couple weeks ago as well. Thanks everybody very much for following the scope today. Make sure you check out our page and actually follow us so you get notified when we do our next scope. And you can also see the scope and complete in the full if you just came in late for the next 24 hours. Thanks everybody. Have a great day.